Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's NoorNews Bulletin. We begin with the tragic loss of life following Russian missile strikes near Kyiv, and look at the diplomatic fallout in Iraq following recent regional tensions. Let's take a closer look at these developing stories. A child is among 3 people confirmed dead following a series of Russian missile strikes near the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. The overnight assault targeted residential areas, marking another escalation in the ongoing conflict. According to reports from the BBC and Al Jazeera, emergency services are currently working through the debris to locate survivors and secure the affected sites. This latest wave of attacks follows a stark warning from President Volodymyr Zelensky, who cautioned that Ukraine's stockpiles of missile interceptors are reaching critical lows. The Ukrainian leader has repeatedly urged international allies to accelerate the delivery of air defense systems to protect civilian infrastructure from sustained aerial bombardment. Military analysts note that these strikes appear designed to exploit gaps in Ukraine's defensive capabilities as the country faces increasing pressure on multiple fronts. While Russian officials have not issued a specific comment on this particular strike, the Kremlin maintains that its military operations are directed solely at strategic targets. However, international observers and local authorities continue to document the mounting toll on non-combatants as the intensity of the campaign remains high. With interceptor supplies dwindling, the humanitarian situation in the Kyiv region remains precarious as residents brace for further potential strikes in the coming days. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani has confirmed receiving an official invitation to visit Riyadh, a development occurring in the immediate aftermath of recent United States airstrikes within Iraqi territory. According to Al Jazeera, the invitation was extended by Saudi leadership as regional tensions continue to escalate following a series of military engagements involving American forces and various armed groups across the Middle East. The Prime Minister's office indicated that the visit is intended to facilitate high-level diplomatic discussions regarding regional security, stability, and the ongoing impact of the current geopolitical climate on Iraq's sovereignty. These strikes, which the United States maintains were retaliatory measures against threats to its personnel, have prompted significant domestic pressure within Baghdad to re-evaluate security arrangements and foreign military presence. Analysts suggest that the invitation signals a strategic effort by Saudi Arabia to engage more directly with Iraqi leadership during this period of heightened volatility. While the specific dates for the visit have not yet been finalized, the diplomatic outreach underscores the complex balancing act Baghdad faces as it navigates its relationships with both Washington and its regional neighbors. The Prime Minister is expected to use the platform to address the necessity of de-escalation and the protection of Iraqi borders. Fitch Ratings has affirmed Kuwait's long-term sovereign credit rating at AA- with a stable outlook, maintaining the nation's strong financial standing. According to Arab Times Kuwait, the global credit rating agency's decision is underpinned by the country's exceptionally strong fiscal and external balance sheets, which continue to provide a significant buffer against global economic volatility. The report highlights that Kuwait's low government debt-to-GDP ratio remains a primary pillar of its creditworthiness, even amidst fluctuating global oil prices. Fitch noted that while the country's heavy reliance on the hydrocarbon sector remains a structural challenge, the substantial assets held by the Kuwait Investment Authority offer robust support for the sovereign's long-term stability. The stable outlook reflects the agency's expectation that Kuwait will maintain its fiscal discipline and continue to manage its external assets effectively. This affirmation serves as a key indicator for international investors, signaling confidence in the state's ability to meet its financial obligations despite the ongoing need for broader economic diversification. The rating agency did, however, point to the importance of continued legislative progress in addressing domestic fiscal policy to ensure long-term sustainability. Kuwait remains one of the highest-rated sovereigns in the Gulf region, reflecting its enduring capacity to navigate complex global market conditions. Thai Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin has pledged to implement stricter gun control measures following a tragic shooting that left 8 people dead. The incident occurred when a 14-year-old opened fire at his home and subsequently at a school, before ultimately taking his own life. According to BBC and BBC, the government is now under intense pressure to address the country's firearm regulations in the wake of this violence. The Prime Minister expressed his condolences to the families of the victims and emphasized that the administration will prioritize legislative reforms to prevent similar tragedies from recurring. While Thailand has historically high rates of gun ownership compared to other nations in the region, this latest event has reignited a national debate regarding the accessibility of weapons and the adequacy of current safety protocols. Authorities are currently conducting a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding the teenager's access to the firearm used in the attack. As the nation mourns, officials have indicated that the proposed policy changes will focus on tightening the criteria for gun permits and enhancing security measures within educational institutions. The government remains committed to reviewing existing laws to ensure public safety remains the primary objective moving forward. Spain has officially introduced temporary border checks on travelers arriving from Italy, marking a significant escalation in regional tensions over migration policy. According to the BBC, the move comes as a direct response to Rome's own implementation of similar restrictive measures. This diplomatic friction follows a recent, large-scale migrant surge into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta, which has placed considerable pressure on border infrastructure and prompted both nations to tighten security protocols. The Spanish government confirmed yesterday that these checks are intended to be temporary, though officials have not specified a definitive end date for the policy. The situation highlights the growing strain on the Schengen area's open border principles as European nations grapple with the logistical and political challenges of managing irregular migration flows. While Italy has maintained that its measures are necessary to ensure national security and manage the influx of arrivals, Spain's reciprocal action underscores the deepening divide between Mediterranean neighbors. Analysts suggest that this tit-for-tat approach reflects a broader trend of individual states prioritizing domestic border control over collective European Union migration frameworks. Authorities in both Madrid and Rome remain in discussions as they attempt to reconcile these conflicting border policies while addressing the ongoing humanitarian situation at their respective frontiers. The Rwandan government has officially confirmed the commencement of preliminary discussions with several European nations regarding the transit of deported migrants. According to Q&A, Kigali is currently exploring a framework that would see Rwandan territory utilized as a transit point for individuals being removed from European jurisdictions. While specific details regarding the volume of migrants or the timeline for these operations remain under negotiation, the announcement marks a significant development in Rwanda's ongoing engagement with international migration policy. This initiative follows a series of broader diplomatic efforts by the Rwandan administration to position the country as a strategic partner in managing global migration flows. Officials in Kigali have indicated that these talks are in their early stages, with further consultations expected to take place in the coming weeks to establish the legal and logistical parameters of the proposed transit arrangements. The move comes as various European governments face increasing pressure to address domestic migration challenges, leading them to seek external cooperation for the processing and transit of deportees. As these discussions progress, international observers are closely monitoring how such agreements will align with existing human rights frameworks and the specific operational requirements set forth by the Rwandan authorities. Today marks the 84th anniversary of the Quit India movement, a pivotal turning point in India's struggle for independence. On August 8, 1942, Mahatma Gandhi issued the historic call of "Do or Die" from the Gawalia Tank Maidan in Bombay, signaling the beginning of a mass civil disobedience campaign against British colonial rule. According to reports from Amar Ujala, this movement was not merely a protest but a definitive shift in the freedom struggle, as it mobilized the entire nation to demand an immediate end to British governance. The "Do or Die" slogan served as a powerful catalyst, transforming the movement into a decentralized, grassroots uprising that spanned across urban centers and rural villages. While the British administration responded with mass arrests of top Congress leadership, the movement's momentum proved unstoppable, fundamentally weakening the foundations of imperial authority. Historians note that this phase of the struggle shifted the narrative from seeking gradual reforms to demanding complete sovereignty. By challenging the colonial apparatus on an unprecedented scale, the Quit India movement effectively accelerated the timeline toward the eventual independence achieved 5 years later in 1947, cementing its place as the final major push in the long fight for national liberation. Thank you for joining us for this verified update on today's global events. We will continue to track these stories as they unfold. NoorNews, verified before published.